So we are doing something a little bit different today. We don't normally just sit down and have a chat, but we were discussing some things in our family over the past few weeks, and especially with our bigger people, we like to sit around and have great conversation. And so this came from a conversation that's been going on for a while in our family, and Brooke said, "Hey Mom, I'd really love for you to share that on YouTube." And so here I am sharing with you what's going on in my head. Let's just have a chit chat today, shall we? But before we get started, would you please give this video a thumbs up so it can hit a broader audience? And if you aren't already subscribed, please do that now. What I want to talk to you about today is cooking with single ingredient foods. That sounds confusing, but it's not. Before I go into what that is, let me give you a little backstory. I would say for the past 15 or so years, Brian and I have worked very hard to make small changes to our family's diet and what we eat. And so we went from, Brian really only when I met him 20 some years ago, he mostly fast food. And I didn't have the first clue about nutrition at all. So we've come a long way from there, but it has been baby steps all along the way. And as our family grew in size, we had to make those changes really small because trying to change everything that we learned at once would just be too expensive. And so this journey that we've been on has been for like 15 years, with maybe every 6 months to a year, us making another change and getting accustomed to that and then making another change. And so some of those examples are that we raise all of our own meat now. We don't buy any store meat unless it's something that we've wanted to buy, like a convenience item. But even that's gonna be cut back very soon, as you'll find out. So we raise chickens, we have ducks, Joshua's raising the quail, we have cows. We have all the meat that we can eat. We have turkeys too. We have all the meat that we could need. We can some of the meat so that we're not dependent on if the electricity goes down. We freeze some of the meat, but we are stocked in meat, don't need any meat. We also had changed over that we did our own milk. So we got dairy cows and we started learning how to milk and that whole process. And now we don't buy any milk. We don't even buy that many dairy products anymore because we're making our own dairy products. So as I say, this has been a continual change from where we came from to where we are now and where we're going in the future. And so we were having this conversation with our older children, and this is how this video came to be, because there are still things that I'm processing through as I'm in charge of the food in the house, okay? I'm in charge of making sure that we buy what we need, I'm in sure that it falls within budget, and I'm in charge of the meal planning. Well, I get help with that from the family, and I certainly get a lot of help with the cooking. Don't ever think I do all the cooking in this house, because I have some amazing children that love to cook, and they do a lot of it. But the burden of making sure that our family has nutritious meals is on my shoulders. So that brings us to single ingredient food cooking. When you first hear that, you think the same thing I thought. I can only cook with one ingredient? That doesn't make sense. What are we gonna eat? And then I realized that single ingredient food cooking just means that what I'm cooking with is all a single ingredient. So I don't know how often you look at labels anymore, but they're getting scary. I cannot pronounce half of the things that are on the food labels. They're not really food anymore, people. I'm sorry if that offends you. What we buy in the stores is not food. It's not nourishing our bodies. It's not providing any good value to us. And if anything, it's causing disease. I don't want that for my family. So we had cut out a lot of processed foods. We had cut out a lot of things over the years, slowly. But now I'm at the point where I don't want to eat foods that I don't know where they've come from. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what sparked this for me and what created such a passion to move this direction. We have some things that we do not eat in our diet because we follow what we see as a biblically clean diet. Not saying that that's for everyone, but there are so many things that have what we consider unclean foods in foods that is masked by another name, okay? And so we have to do so much research to figure out, is that food have these ingredients in it? Is this food okay for us to eat? And half of the time I still don't know the answer to that. And that's not okay for me anymore. So the only way to prevent that is to move to cooking with ingredients that are the ingredient. Does that make sense? So let me put it to you this way. An apple doesn't have an ingredients list. Why? Because the apple is the ingredient, right? Rice, if it's, if they're really an apple and rice, don't have an ingredients list because it's rice, okay? Milk from my cow isn't gonna have an ingredients list because it's purely milk. That's a single ingredient food. They don't need the ingredient list because it is an ingredient, okay? So my goal is to really move my family to eating meals that are created from single ingredient foods. That cuts out all the processed foods, and it takes us to really homemade from scratch meals. And I have been working on that for a few weeks now. Not every meal, certainly not all the food that we're buying, but I am taking baby steps to make our food that I can look at it and say, I know every ingredient that is in this food because they were all single ingredient foods. There was nothing hidden in this food, okay? So for example, right now on my stove, I started chili this morning. And in that chili, I put beans that were home canned. They were just beans. I put tomatoes. I put broth from our own meat. I put ground beef from our own cow. I put onions from our garden. I put bell peppers that I had saved last year from the garden, okay? All of those foods are single ingredient. I don't look at that chili and go, what's in that chili? I know what's in that chili. So I'm going to discuss now with you some of the benefits of cooking this way, some of the challenges for sure. This has not been easy. But there have been some immense benefits even after just committing to replacing a few meals a week to do it this way. And I'm going to share them with you. I would say that the most surprising benefit has been the flavor. Even my husband commented that he has gotten to the point now where he craves our home cooked foods over going out or convenience foods. So my husband and I go on a date every single week. It's pretty religious. It's just part of how we keep our marriage exciting and fun, and we get to talk without kids around. And a lot of years, that date included going and getting something to eat. Well, we're not doing that anymore. We're no longer going out to eat. For the most part, I'm trying to think, I can't even remember the last time that we went out to eat. I'm not saying that we will never go out to eat. I'm just saying we haven't been. Because now I just pack things, I think ahead, I think of some special things to pack, to take along with us wherever we're going, whether it's shopping or we're going down to the park for a walk, whatever we're doing. I'm now packing foods that are special. So it's like, okay, this is a special moment in time, but they're still single ingredient foods or made from single ingredient foods. And he has told me that he has enjoyed the flavor of that and the home cooked meals more than anything he's eaten before. So there's no more like desire to even go out to eat. When we started cooking our own steaks, which you saw last week, we had some from our beef cow. And my husband is a huge, huge steak fan. I mean, when we'd go out to eat, he'd get steak. That was what he got. He doesn't even want restaurant steak anymore. He's like, I don't want to go out and get a steak. They don't taste good. Homegrown beef, that everything. I know everything that my cow ate. Everything. I know exactly what went into him. And I can eat that with pride. Like, this tastes so good. It just tastes so good. It's probably in my head It's probably in all of our heads, but it just tastes better knowing what's in it. Obviously, another benefit is that it's more nutritional. So you can reduce the sugar. There's no artificial anything. There's no preservatives. There's no unhealthy fats. And this diet can be completely customized to whatever your needs are in your family. You don't have to have dairy products added in if you have someone that can't drink dairy. So just so much more nutritious, so much healthier, especially when we're eating the fresh food that comes out of our garden that's in season. I believe that the Father created foods for a season. Those are the foods he wants us to eat at that time. All the nutrients that brings is right there for us. Let's eat it. You know, there is an added cost in some ways to eating like this. You definitely can see, like, I've looked at the budget. I see the difference when I cook from scratch. There's a lot more involved, a lot more to think ahead about, especially like with spices and things. There's gonna be more to think about as I continue on this journey. But we're not eating out, and I have all the meals planned. So there's never a moment where it's like, oh no, we have to grab something quick. No, I'm planning ahead, I'm preparing ahead, and I'm buying in bulk because a lot of the things that I'm gonna be using often. So like I use the wheat berries for our sourdough bread. When we don't have potatoes from the garden, I'm buying potatoes in bulk, things like that. So there is a cost savings to buying in bulk, especially if you buy through Azure. If you haven't, we'll put our referral link down below. Plus, if you have a large family like we do, I will often make 2 or 3 times the amount of food. So tonight we're having chili. And instead of making 1 batch of chili, I made a huge batch of chili. And we'll take out tonight's dinner, and the rest I'm gonna freeze for a later time. I could also can it, but I already have a bunch of canned chili, so I don't need to do that right now. But there's options. And then, so what we do as a family, and this is just our own tradition, it's just what works for us, is the reason that you never see Saturday on my meal plan is because we just don't cook on Saturdays. We take a break. So on Saturdays, we'll have some kind of easy breakfast, cereal every now and then, which the kids don't often get, which is probably changing because I have to find a way to make cereal. But we'll do like fruits and all kinds of different things for breakfast. Then lunch, lately we've been cutting up some of our fresh produce, like cucumber slices and any fresh fruits that we have, and just sort of having like a little lunch buffet. And then for dinner, we're either taking out the leftovers from the week so nothing goes to waste. And if I don't have any, which is very, very common since I have 3 teenage boys now, almost teenage boys, who eat more than my girls ever ate, I'm taking out one of those meals from the freezer, and we're using that on Saturday. And so I'll just pop it in the oven or pop it in the crock pot and not think about it. It's all prepared, it's all done, a nice hot meal, and that's that. So that's why I don't put Saturday on my meal plan, because it's literally just whatever's in my freezer or whatever's left over. So let's talk about a few of the meals that I've tried the past couple weeks and how that's working, because I'm really new to this. It's something I've wanted to do, and I just have talked myself out of it time and time again with like silly thoughts like it's not going to make my husband happy, or my children are going to get bored, or this can be too much work. Those are all the thoughts that have kept me from not moving forward in this direction, and none of that has come true. I'm not doing any more cooking or meal planning than I did before. If anything, I think we've gotten more excited about the cooking and meal planning because it's like, look what we created in the kitchen together, right? And my husband loves it, so that's not a problem. The kids have not been bored. They have said over and over again, this is so much better than the other one we used to make, or this is so much more tasty than blah, 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 whatever. And they haven't even wanted to like go out to eat or do any of that. When we had to run errands a couple weeks ago, we took food with us, and the kids were so happy. And so let's look at a couple of my meals. So the first one that comes to my mind is the steak dinner from last Sunday. And that was just the steak from our beef cow, onions on top, green beans, and a baked potato. And then even with the baked potato, we make all of our own butter now. So the butter comes from our dairy cow, and that comes from the cream. So we churn the cream into butter, and that was the butter used, and some salt, Redmond salt on, is Redmond salt single ingredient? I don't know, I'm gonna look at that now. That's an interesting thought that I see. These are the challenges I come up with. This is why we need to have this conversation. So that was a meal last week that we did. We also had the sourdough burgers. That was just, again, our beef and some onion, an egg from our chickens. And then the sourdough bread is the sourdough starter that we made with ground up wheat berries, more of the butter, honey that we get in Texas, and water. And then we had some garden fresh foods on the side with that, and potatoes. So that was all made from single ingredients. Yesterday, because I'm filming this on a Monday, so yesterday we had chicken pot pie, again, made all from single ingredients. Our chicken, our broth, our vegetables, and then a crust for the top. It was all very good, and we haven't had any challenges so far. I think the biggest challenge right now is going to be the temptation of wanting those easy convenience foods, and we, as with all things, are not going to make this sudden change. We're not going to say, that's it, we're only eating single ingredient foods right now. That's just not how we do things. That has never worked in our family. We like to test the waters. We're going to see that we love it as we are, and we're going to want more and more and more of that until it just naturally becomes our new lifestyle. And so that's where we're at right now. We're just testing the waters, but I can already see how well it's going. So another reason why this has sparked so much passion for me is, like, I'm going to express what I have come to find out about cheese, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in my research, because certainly I'm a busy woman, so I only devote so much time to research. But now that we're making our own cheese, I'm experimenting and seeing things more clearly. And so because we avoided like pork products, and we know that some rennet can be derived from pork, we would only buy vegetarian cheeses just to be sure that there was no pork rennet in the cheese, or if it said that it was cow rennet, that was fine too. But most cheeses don't specify that. And then when we started making our own cheese, and I was debating, do I want to use cow rennet in our cheese, or do I want to use vegetable rennet in our cheese, which is what was used in most of the cheese we were buying, I found that the vegetarian rennet is mostly made from a very well-known pharmaceutical company in the United States. And I got to thinking, why is a pharmaceutical company making our cheese rennet? That seems a little bit odd to me. And it just caused some concern. Our family doesn't use even over-the-counter medications. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't. I'm not saying that there's a problem with that. I'm just saying we really strive to not put those kinds of things into our body. So why would I want to be eating cheese every day that pharmaceutical companies were manufacturing or participating in the manufacturing of? Just something that concerned me. Maybe it's not true. Maybe I read it all wrong. Either way, we have a dairy cow. She produces great milk. She produces a lot of milk. There's really no reason for me to buy a lot of other cheese. Yes, I still do need some dairy products until we wean her calf. Her calf is only going on 3 months old. We will wean her when she's 4 months old. So for right now, we're doing what's called calf sharing. So we're getting about 3 gallons of milk a day while calf sharing. So the calf is still nursing. When we wean her, we will be getting 6+ gallons of milk a day. And at that point, I shouldn't need to buy anything dairy. But for now, we are making our own butter. We obviously have all of our own milk. We're making cottage cheese. We're making yogurt. We are making mozzarella cheese and ricotta cheese and sour cream. I haven't bought any of those things. When we wean her, we will be moving into hard cheeses. So that's a very exciting time for us. Something we haven't done, but we are ready to learn. And if I could move away from all store-bought cheese, I'd be a really happy mama, because this has been on my mind, in my heart, just to get away from these foods that I can't tell you what's in them. It's not, I don't feel like I'm being a good steward to my family anymore if I can't tell them what's going into their bodies. So that's where I'm at. I would love your input. If this is something that you have embarked upon, I'd love to hear about the journey, the things I need to watch out for. Even just your encouragement would be awesome. So again, I shared this because Brooke asked me to. This isn't something I'm really comfortable with doing, to be completely honest with you. But she said, you know, Mom, you should share that and have a conversation with people and open up the dialogue to like, hey, what's in our food? You know, we got to think about these things. So leave your thoughts below. I cannot wait to hear what you think, and what you've done to change the way that you eat. Love to hear about it. Talk to y'all soon.